the world. I could feel all this death.
Everything they've built will fall! And from the ashes of their world, we'll build a better one!
Not exactly what you want to be seeing while you're at the beach. Anyone who is filming this, take cover, for goodness sake. Now, there were a lot of wind reports in the panhandle of Florida. This is in Destin, Florida, and we have a lot of views of this incredibly ominous looking storm. Now, a shelf cloud in of itself does not necessarily mean severe weather, but it certainly means, hey, you might be rained on here in the very near future, and some other more turbulent things could also be on the way. You can even see the striations in this cloud, really remarkable. Look at this, how it's reaching out underneath those top layers as people are packing up and heading it back in off the beach. I would have done it a little sooner, though, I think personally. And if you look at this, wait, see how it's kind of looks like it's spinning in on itself? That part that we were seeing off to the left, that might have even been the starts of a mesocyclone, and we do often see tornadoes drop out of those. So definitely be careful if you see this at the beach.
Drenched by days of heavy rain, thousands of homes in central Java are inundated. Most damaged by water, some buried under avalanches of mud. The island's longest river, the Bengawan Solo, has overflowed its banks. Flash floods sending residents to higher ground.
The forecast for heavy rains is expected to last another 3 days. Right now we are focused on warning those affected and saving lives.
Rescue workers, including the army and police, are on a mission to evacuate low-lying communities. Victims have been relocated to temporary shelters across the disaster zone. Volunteers are also forming search teams for the missing in the worst-hit town of Purworejo. Although landslides are not uncommon, the storms have caught many Indonesians off guard because June is typically a dry month for the region. Gerald Tan, Al Jazeera.
Japanese former government leaders have rejected suggestions that they were behind a suspected meltdown cover-up when the Fukushima nuclear disaster was unfolding in 2011. A report compiled by an investigation panel said Masataka Shimizu, former president of Tokyo Electric Power Company, had instructed employees not to use the term meltdown. The report also implied that Shimizu was acting on orders from high up in the government. But Naito Kan, who was prime minister at the time, denied giving the instruction. The company declared the meltdown at 3 reactors at the Fukushima No. 1 plant in May 2011, 2 months after the disaster occurred.
Our top story this morning, a fast-moving massive wildfire in California that forced evacuations is still burning out of control and is expected to get worse. It's one of more than a dozen fires burning throughout the Southwest. The fire in Santa Barbara County has consumed more than 9 square miles of brush. About 270 homes and ranches are at risk.
The fire is only 20% contained. Firefighters are concerned about the threat of increasing winds this weekend and an extreme heat wave. Terry Okita joins us now from Goleta with the latest. Terry, good morning.
Hi, good morning, Vanita. Night-flying helicopters worked through the darkness to douse the flames that whipped up overnight. And once daylight comes, we're going to see more air power. 13 helicopters, 3 air tankers are going to be dropping water and retardant on these fuel-hungry flames.
Fierce, erratic winds known as sundowners are driving the Sherpa fire in Santa Barbara County. Sundowners can produce gusts of up to 80 miles per hour, while California's 5-year drought has left a trail of dry coastal canyons and parched hillsides that burn quickly.
It is ominous, and we are concerned because there's a lot of tree mortality out there that makes fire behavior worse.
Some 1,200 firefighters are battling the blaze. Several were forced to seek shelter behind an engine when flames came dangerously close. Mandatory evacuations are in place for hundreds living on area ranches, where crops of avocados, olives, and lemons have already been lost. Still, some residents prepared to leave, but decided to wait it out.
Do you feel at all at your safety's at risk, because it is a mandatory evacuation, but you've decided to stay?
A little bit. If there's flames that start going over that hillside right over here, then we're going to have to get out of here.
While the flames continue to roar, the National Weather Service is predicting temperatures to soar through the weekend.
Sunday, we ought to be seeing temperatures push into the 90s, especially if we get up in the foothills and the mountains.
By Monday, temperatures may hit triple digits, and more heat means increased wind. Fire officials fear the blaze could be a bad omen for California's fire season.
ISIS has its eyes on Korea. The Islamic terrorist group has reportedly identified targets in Korea, including U.S. military bases and 1 Korean citizen. Our Oh Jung-hee has the details on the list provided by Korea's top intelligence agency.
The Islamic State group has targeted Korea in an online post featuring the locations of U.S. Air Force facilities in Korea and the personal information of 1 Korean citizen. According to the National Intelligence Service on Sunday, the group used the messaging service Telegram to post the locations of 77 U.S. Air Force bases around the world and the personal information of 21 ordinary citizens. The list includes Google satellite maps and the websites of U.S. Air Force bases in the Korean cities of Osan and Gunsan, as well as the name, email address, and the physical address of a person who works at an unnamed Korean welfare organization. The NIS said the Islamic State's hacking group United Cyber Caliphate obtained the data by hacking websites and collecting information from the internet. The NIS told U.S. Forces Korea and the related institutions to be on alert for possible terrorist attacks and asked the police to protect the targeted citizen. The agency added that the Korean government will do all it can do to protect citizens through its government-wide counter-terrorism system. The threat comes after ISIS designated Korea as an ally of the forces fighting against it in September of last year and released a video that included a list of 20 Koreans early this year. Over the last 5 years, Korea has deported roughly 50 people with links to terrorist organizations and caught 2 Korean nationals who tried to join ISIS.
It took many a surprise late on Friday when Rio's state authorities declared a state of emergency, a financial calamity, quote, when they put a declaration out at an official publication, basically saying they needed special measures to be able to get loans here, to cut through red tape, and at the end of the day, appealing to the federal government of Brazil for extra money, potentially $1 billion worth, according to local media reports here, to help them out with what is already a $5 billion debt they've managed to accrue. Now, we've already seen in the past months how that's impacting health services here, some hospitals in crisis, universities, and more importantly, the police, who are struggling, some say, to necessarily find the money they need to go through the security programs in Rio to get it ready for the games. But this declaration proved that things were significantly worse than anybody necessarily thought. And it's brought a sense, I think, of shock to many longer-term observers here. The broader question, where's that money going to come from? Well, they want about $1 billion. It may come from the federal government. Is this local officials using the Olympic Games, that big international showcase event for Brazil, as leverage to get money out of federal government to improve local services here? Well, possibly yes. We don't know if that's going to prove successful here, but it's added yet another potential hurdle or moment for concern when it comes to the Olympics, under 50 days away from now. We know that there's a political crisis here, an economic crisis, a Zika outbreak that's got many athletes debating whether they're even going to attend. Now we also know that the financial crisis here in Rio has got to the point where they're willing to make very public declarations of, quote, calamity. The money may come through, but there is a risk here, I think, that it may sour the climate that tourists come to the games in here, the hospitals, the police, they will end up relying upon, and possibly also, too, this is the one thing we don't really know, the ability for the infrastructure for the games to be ready. All promises have been kept that things will be there on time, but one example, the subway that's supposed to take people from the beaches behind me to the Olympic Park itself, that's only going to be ready, the vital extension, 4 days before the games begin. A lot cutting it tight, a lot of money not in the kitty where it should be. Great concerns only mounting here in Rio. Nick Payton-Walsh, CNN, Rio de Janeiro.
Police have rescued a dozen young girls from a house in southeastern Pennsylvania. 3 adults are under arrest, and police believe one of the girls was given to a man by her family to pay a debt. The house is in the small town of Feasterville, about halfway between Philadelphia and Trenton, New Jersey. Alexandria Hoff of our Philadelphia station, KYW, is there with more. Alexandria, good morning.
Good morning. Neighbors told us that from time to time they would see these little faces peeking out from windows of the home behind me, never quite knowing who these children were inside. Police say that when neighbors inquired, the man said he lived alone. But late Thursday, 12 girls were found inside, ages ranging from 6 months to 18 years old. No birth certificates, no IDs, none of them enrolled in school. The owner of the home now faces a multitude of sexual assault charges. Police say that 51-year-old Lee Kaplan told investigators that he fathered 2 of the children with the eldest girl, now 18, a sexual relationship that began when she was 14. Perhaps the hardest part of this to understand is that police say the girl's parents knew about all of this and that she was gifted to Kaplan by her father as some sort of business transaction. Her parents, Daniel and Sevilla Stoltzvis, who records show hail from an Amish community about 75 miles away, have also been charged. One neighbor has been hailed as a hero in all of this, trusting the odd feeling that she had about this home and calling police.
I just made the call. I don't know. It's just an instinct. I just felt like I wasn't going through another summer where everybody should be outside kind of thing and not see those little girls again.
Police are still investigating whether any more of those children were abused.
Donald Trump's fiery remarks about the Orlando nightclub attacks is fueling a fresh round of discussions about selecting a new nominee at next month's Republican convention in Cleveland. Juliana Goldman is in our Washington bureau with more on that. Juliana, good morning.
Good morning. Well, the terrorist attack in Orlando has once again brought the gun debate front and center in this election, and at a time when there are new efforts to try to deny Donald Trump the nomination at next month's convention, the gun issue is actually one that could help him become a bit more palatable to fellow Republicans.
I'm an outsider, and historically, they don't love the outsiders.
Campaigning in Texas Friday, Donald Trump said he's confident he has the backing of his party.
And I'm even talking about the politicians that are totally supportive. If one person raises a little question, it's like, oh, did you hear? Let me tell you, folks, we have tremendous support.
What the presumptive nominee didn't mention, a week of heated criticism from Republican leaders who spoke out against his call to expand his proposed ban on Muslims and his implication that President Obama was somehow complicit in last week's Orlando terrorist attack.
This is a very strange situation. This is a very unique nominee.
In an interview for Sunday's Meet the Press, House Speaker Paul Ryan said he won't tell his House members whether or not they should support Trump.
The last thing I would do is tell anybody to do something that's contrary to their conscience.
Trump also broke from the GOP this week in saying he would talk to the National Rifle Association about preventing people on terrorist watch lists from purchasing guns.
Those people are fantastic people. You know, they take a lot of heat. They love this country. They love what it represents.
But campaigning near Houston last night, Trump stuck to the party's script and his usual talking points on guns.
You put me in there, we're going to save that Second Amendment, we're going to save your guns, they're not going to take away your bullets.
Neither Trump nor the NRA have said when they'll meet, and Vanita, Trump's Democratic opponent Hillary Clinton is pouncing on his inflammatory rhetoric about the guns and the Muslim community, telling an Orlando newspaper, quote, "I am troubled by the incoherence in his response, the rants, the name-calling."
A judge today will begin to consider whether a gun maker should face trial over the Sandy Hook school shooting. A lawsuit blames the manufacturer, distributor, and seller of the rifle used in the massacre, where 26 students and educators died. Michelle Miller spoke with one victim's family in his outside Bridgeport Superior Court in Connecticut. That's southeast of Newtown. Michelle, good morning.
Good morning. Since this case was filed last October, gun makers have tried everything they could to get it thrown out of court. They get one more chance today when both sides present their cases.
This is what we need to do to make sure this stops. Daniel deserved to live a full life.
Mark and Jackie Barden's son Daniel was just a 7-year-old first grader when he was murdered at Sandy Hook Elementary. Now the Barden family and 9 other Newtown plaintiffs are fighting to sue Remington Arms, the maker of the Bushmaster AR-15 style rifle used in the attack, along with the gun's distributor and seller.
Assault weapons with high-capacity magazines have no practical application in the hands of untrained civilians.
The lawsuit claims Remington knowingly exploited the rifle's militaristic and destructive nature in ads geared toward civilians.
The argument might be that this is the best way for us to market our product.
But it's irresponsible and people are dying. And it's targeted at these, disenfranchised, violence-prone young men.
But Remington insists a 2005 federal law protects the firearms industry against most claims when guns are misused. In a recent motion to dismiss the lawsuit, lawyers for the company said the law makes it immune from the claim that it acted unlawfully.
They do not want to see the doors open to litigation when there are mass killings or any killings with their product.
The AR-15 is one of the most popular weapons in the U.S., with several different manufacturers' versions on the market. But the rifle is also turned up in the hands of other mass shooters in Aurora and San Bernardino. Last week, the Bardens learned that a similar assault rifle made by a different company, a Sig Sauer MCX rifle, had been used in another rampage, this time at a nightclub in Orlando.
It's not you're at the wrong place at the wrong time. It's you're doing what you're supposed to be doing and, losing your life.
Remington and the other defendants in this case did not return our phone calls for comment. We should note that the judge could take several months before she makes a decision. Josh?
Michelle, thank you.
Texas lawmakers have passed legislation allowing students to carry concealed firearms on the grounds of public colleges and university campuses.
Our question is, what are we doing by limiting campus concealed carry? And our answer is that all you're doing is you're giving the bad guy free rein to do whatever he wants without somebody fighting back.
But the law is unpopular with faculty, students, and parents of prospective students. Russian history professor Joan Neuberger is leading the opposition to guns on campus.
We've been under attack by conservative forces and business forces of various kinds for a decade now. And this is one way to bully our community by forcing us to implement a law that the overwhelming majority of people here in our community don't want.
She says the argument that well-armed students will take out would-be mass killers is ludicrous.
The chances of that are minuscule compared to the chances of a gun going off by accident or a gun being used in an argument.
Professors are free to ban cell phones in their classrooms, but not guns.
Faculty members who oppose the law say they're not only worried about their safety and that of their students. They say guns on campus will damage the quality of education, muffle freedom of speech, and discourage critical thinking.
Many students, like first-year philosophy major Shane Wagoner, agree.
Just knowing that they have a weapon is going to cause you to be more concerned than you otherwise would be. And I think that corrupts the values of a university, which would be a place for freedom of expression and delving into controversial issues.
Gun rights advocates point to other states where carrying concealed weapons on campus is already legal.
Students are not threatening other students over disagreements in classrooms. Students are not threatening professors with firearms.
This campus was hit by a terrible shooting spree back in 1966. 14 people were killed and 34 wounded. Texas legislators decided that the new campus gun law should take effect on the 50th anniversary of that atrocity.
They had to have known when they put that in place. And whether they think it's a good, symbolic gesture towards increasing the safety of our school or just sort of an in-your-face to those opponents of the law, I'm not sure.
Anti-gun students plan protests and acts of civil disobedience when the law comes into force in August. Rob Reynolds, Al Jazeera, Austin, Texas.
Details tonight about two Camp Pendleton Marines under investigation for a threatening post on Facebook.
10 News reporter Emily Thode is live in Hillcrest. And Emily, the post said coming to a gay bar near you.
Yes, it did. And this is the second threat to San Diego's gay community in just a few days. These people everywhere are already shattered by the Orlando massacre and now even more rattled.
It scared me a lot.
Two Camp Pendleton Marines under investigation for this photo. It shows a Marine corporal holding a rifle, finger on the trigger, the words, "coming to a gay bar near you."
When I first saw it, I started crying.
We're blurring the Marine's face in the photo because investigators wouldn't tell us if he made the threat or if someone else made the threat using his photo. On a Marine Facebook page, someone posted the threat and wrote, "Is it too soon?"
It's not a joke. Like, you can't make light of this situation. There was 49 lives lost, plus I think 23, 24 that are still in the hospital. It's definitely brought all of those memories back.
Dwayne Wynn knows about attacks.
And it's a little scary knowing that I work at a very popular gay nightclub.
Wynn was attacked for being gay in Hillcrest in 2013 by three men with a baseball bat.
And then I heard, "Hey," and I turned my head, and that's when I got the first baseball bat right across the face, which completely knocked me out.
They took turns beating him. His attackers never caught. So when he sees this...
It's an attack on the gay community.
I can't see them, Emily. I can't see them.
So out here live in Hillcrest, we see 4 San Diego police officers. They're just going along University Avenue, talking to people door to door. So that's some of the extra security we are seeing out here. Bars also say they've hired private security, extra private security in light of these threats. I'm live in Hillcrest. Emily Thode, 10 News.
Yok diyorum sana. Kaç tane üstünden ya? Kaçın! Kaçın! Kımıldama Turan. Sen grubunu al gir oraya.
Türkiye'mizi ibne istemiyoruz. Top istemiyoruz Türkiye'mizi. Türk bayrağı açık. Geç.
The protests in Mexico's Oaxaca state have been going on for months, but this was the most violent yet. At least 6 people killed and over 50 others injured near the town of Nochitlan when clashes broke out Sunday between a teachers' union and riot police. It happened when police moved in to remove the protesters who had been blocking a highway for several days with burning tires. Police say the protests had been infiltrated by individuals bent on violence but unaffiliated with the unions. At issue, teacher anger over education reforms the government pushed through 3 years ago, especially over mandates to carry out teacher evaluations. The state governor says most of the dead were young people. Only 2, he said, had links to the union.